man, Corey Kluber won a Cy Young before he was named an All-Star. I mean, kind of an interesting career, but as of right now, he has two Cy Youngs in the American League, a pretty tough league to win the Cy Young. So I mean, that's enough for him to be considered elite. To me, I think he needs a championship. That's all he needs. But to me, of course, he's elite. He's an elite starting pitcher, and the world deserves to know that Corey Kluber is elite. How you guys doing? It is July 20th, 2020. I here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. And for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to get into Corey Kluber. And if you guys are unaware of who Corey Kluber is, he is a 34-year-old starting pitcher who now is pitching for the Texas Rangers. He was pretty much the best pitcher the Indians have had in the 2010s. The best way to really put it. He put him on the map. I believe he got them to the World Series. He won the Cy Young twice, like I just said. And he might go down as one of the best Indians pitchers ever. Or at least he may go down as one of my favorite pitchers from this era just because he has a beautiful pitch. He makes pitching look artful. He makes it beautiful. But just to get into it, coming out of Birmingham, Alabama. He was eventually drafted by the Padres in the fourth round of the 2007 MLB draft. After getting moved around as a prospect, he came up with the Cleveland Indians in 2011 at 25 years old. I mean, his very first season, he would end up pitching 4 innings in 3 different games and an 8.31 ERA because he allowed 4 runs in 4.1 innings. Not so great. His second season, he would go 2-5 in 63 innings with a 5.14 ERA. He wasn't officially a starter with the Cleveland Indians until his age 27 season, where he started 24 of the 26 games that he played for the Indians, in a season where they finished second in the AL Central and they lost in the AL wild card to the Rays. But that was the year in which Corey Kluber established himself at least as a winning pitcher. And in those 24 starts, he finished with an 11-5 record, pitching for 147 innings. And in those innings, he would allow 153 hits and he'd strike out 136 batters. But I mean, he was slowly getting there. And at this time, that was his age 27 season. And he hadn't established himself as one of the best pitchers in baseball yet. That was in 2013, he was a pitcher who, at his best, he pitched 11-5 and helped his team at least clinch the playoffs, at least the wild card, even though they lost to the Rays. That's still enough. The very next year, Corey Kluber would start all 34 of the games that he played for the Cleveland Indians, in a season where the Indians finished third in the AL Central with an 85-77 record. Corey Kluber would go on to finish with an 18-9 record, pitching for 235 innings. He would go on to allow 207 hits in those innings, and he would go on to strike out 269 batters, the most batters he struck out in a season to date. And with that, he would finish 11th in the MVP voting, and he was voted the Cy Young Award winner in 2014. Before he was named an All-Star, I would imagine, because he finished with the AL wins and he was actually pretty nice in the second half of the season. But he wasn't an All-Star. But by the time he was 29, before he was recognized at least as one of the best pitchers in the league, he was recognized as the best pitcher in the American League, which is quite a strong flex that not many other pitchers can use, I imagine. Going to his age 29 season in 2015, following the year he won the Cy Young, he would go on to start 32 games for the Indians in a season where they would finish third in the AL Central and they missed the playoffs for the second year in a row. And in that season, Corey Kluber would finish with a 9-16 record. He would lead the American League in losses. That's a first on the Elite. But he would also have a 3.49 ERA after pitching 4 complete games, throwing for 222 complete innings, allowing 189 hits, striking out 245, and he would finish 9th in the Cy Young voting, even though he had a losing record and everything else. No, he was still putting up incredible numbers. He led the league in complete games and losses. So I mean that was kind of a weird season, but still going into his age 30 season, he had gone through his entire 20s and he hadn't been an all-star yet, but he had won a Cy Young. Moving into the 2016 season for the Cleveland Indians, Corey Kluber started all 32 games that he played in a season where the Cleveland Indians would finish first in the AL Central in the regular season. That season, Corey Kluber would pitch for 215 innings, and he would have a finish with a 3.14 ERA in those innings with an 18-9 record, finishing with 3 complete games, leading the league with 2 shutouts. In those 215 innings, he would allow 170 hits. He would strike out 227 batters, more batters than innings pitched, and more innings pitched than hits. He would lead the league in FIP. He would get voted 19th in the MVP race. He was named to his first All-Star game ever in 2016. He was third in the Cy Young voting, which is, I mean, his second best to finish in that, but he was named to his first All-Star game, naturally. And the Cleveland Indians would make the playoffs where they would beat the Red Sox, sweep the Red Sox in the first round. They would beat the Blue Jays 4-1 in the second round when Josh Donaldson was going off. And they lost to the Cubs in the World Series. Like, they had an amazing run. Corey Kluber helped get him all the way there. I mean, he was the third best pitcher in the American League, and the Indians were a very, very strong team, but they just couldn't make it through the Cubs because the Cubs just had all the momentum that year. But that's how that season would end. But the Indians would still be at least title contenders, at least as long as Corey Kluber's in town. For the 2017 season, Corey Kluber would once again start 29. He would start 29 games in a season where he would win the Cy Young Award in this season where the Cleveland Indians finished with 102 wins and 60 losses. They won the American League Central. They had more wins than they had ever won since 1954 as a franchise. That's how dominant they were that year. And, of course, Corey Kluber won the Cy Young and leading the Indians to their most impressive regular season ever. He had an 18-4 record, finishing with a 2.25 ERA in 203 innings. He had 5 complete games, leading the American League, and and that's his career high. He also had his career high in shutouts with 3. In those 203 innings pitched, he allowed 141 hits and struck out 265 batters, which is not as much as he did in his first Cy Young season, but he still allowed 48 less hits than he did that season in 20 less innings. That season, he would go on to finish 7th in MVP voting. He would be named to his second All-Star game, and he would be named the Cy Young for the season, and that would be the second time he would receive the award. There's very few people in the history of the MLB that has won the Cy Young twice, especially for a player that wasn't an all-star until he was 30 years old. I mean, that also carries a lot of weight in that discussion. That year, after winning 102 games, they would go on to lose in the very first round to the Yankees. But yeah, at that point, Corey Kluber was a perennial Cy Young Award winner, and this would lead on to his age 32 season. In 2018, Corey Kluber would start 33 games in a season where the Cleveland Indians finished with 91 wins, winning the AL Central for the third year in a row. And in this season, Corey Kluber would finish with a 20-7 record with a 2.89 ERA in 215 innings, which led the American League. He led the league in complete games with 2 for the third time in his career. He led the league in shutouts with 1 for the third time in his career. In those 215 innings, he allowed 179 hits and finished with 222 strikeouts, which is an elite metric, which is an elite ratio if you ask me. He was named an All-Star for the third year in a row. He was voted third in the Cy Young for the second time. And by the way, this is the fourth time he was a top 3 Cy Young candidate, and this is the fourth time he was a top 3 Cy Young candidate, and the third time he was an All-Star. And this leads into our most recent season in 2019, where he would go on and start 7 games for the Cleveland Indians that would eventually go on and finish second in the AL Central with 93 wins and still not clinch the playoffs. But in those, he would finish 2-3 in those 7 games with a 5.80 ERA and 37 innings pitched. He allowed 44 hits, and he struck out 38 of them. But I mean, that season to come back, it was tough because of course it was riddled with injury, and of course he had to leave early. And that season was definitely very difficult for him. But now with that season off, and a full season to get back into the mix, Corey Kluber looks well rested, and it seems as though he's ready to join the Texas Rangers this season. I don't know exactly why he chose the Rangers. I think he chose it probably for the money or the chance to live in Dallas. I have no idea. His rotation's gonna have Mike Minor, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and Jordan Lyles. That's what it says as of right now, as of the quarantine. That looks like what his bullpen's gonna be. I don't know if they're necessarily gonna compete in the American League, but Corey Kluber will still be an elite pitcher. There's no reason for me to not think so. He is a 34-year-old starting pitcher who, the last time he played a full season, he was a full-on all-star and a top 3 pitcher in all of baseball. So, there's not much else to say. You can tell that through what he's done with the Indians, his presence has helped made them a significantly better team. He's been voted consistently within the Cy Young race, and right now is considered one of MLB's best pitchers. You could have, there's an argument that you can say that says Corey Kluber is the best pitcher in baseball right now, and it's a very solid logistical argument. And to me, I think he's elite. I think he's incredibly elite. I would give him a GOAT if he won a championship, but I don't know if he's going to win a World Series anytime soon. But as of right now, he's still a 3-time All-Star, a 2-time American League Cy Young Award winner. He's a 2-time American League wins leader, and he's an ERA leader in the American League. He was a wins leader and an ERA leader the year that he was the Cy Young Award winner, the second time. But without further ado, there's not much more I can really say. This dude he's really as elite as they come. If you ever get a chance, watch Corey Kluber. He will be the ace for the Texas Rangers, wearing 28. But just watch him pitch. I want you to watch him pitch, and I want you to see how difficult it is for people to actually hit him. He looks like he knows where the ball is going to go. He actually looks like he's particularly placing them exactly where he wants to place them. And it's not like every pitcher in the MLB couldn't do that, but Corey Kluber does that, and he'll go right at their best player every single time. And that's what I like about him. He's pretty fearless. But with all that said, there's not much else to say. I've said my piece. Corey Kluber is an elite starting pitcher in this league, and he should be recognized as such. Peace out.